I guess if you're a quarterback, being fourth string at Georgia is better than being second string at USC.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Spot on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC your first listen every day. Whether you're going to watch this show on YouTube or wherever you want to download your podcasts, this show is free. I appreciate your support. Show your appreciation. You're really helping the show out. If you're watching on YouTube, become a subscriber. Make sure you smash that thumbs up button, and don't forget to hit that bell notification button. All three mean a lot to the show's growth. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers, you're going to get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/locked on to get started. I need someone to explain this to me, please. In what world does it make sense to leave your job as a starting quarterback, mind you, at UNLV, just so you can go ride the bench and be the backup's backup at the University of Georgia? I get it. It's one of the top programs in the country right now. But quarterback isn't like playing defensive line or offensive line or wide receiver or running back. Rarely does more than one quarterback play in a game. So instead of being the backup at USC with a chance to actually play in 2024, heaven forbid for an injury to Miller Moss, knock on wood that doesn't happen. Again, you get a better chance to a path of playing at USC and learning from Lincoln Riley in 2024, or go to Georgia and compete for the backup spot. Because that's where he would be in the pecking order. Right now, Lincoln Riley, it happened. He literally took an unexpected, and I'm going to call it a loss. He was out-recruited by Georgia. Jaden Mayava, the quarterback in the transfer portal from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, he picked the University of Georgia Bulldogs over Lincoln Riley and USC. The same USC that has two scholarship quarterbacks, Miller Moss and Jake Jensen, and they have a walk-on, and that's it, Roy Gage. So look, right now, if you're in that mood to point fingers, there's plenty of fingers to point at. You can point the finger at USC and their NIL packages. You can point the finger at Lincoln Riley. I don't know how long you want to point the finger at those two parties. You could point the finger at the players who are taking advantage of the system. You could also point a finger at the adults who are encouraging these young men to take advantage of the system for their own financial benefit. I understand why the players are doing it. But now you've got some people in the background pulling the strings, making this their own paycheck, household expenses, supporting their own family. These handlers, mentors, financial advisors, whatever you want to deem them, these people are now forming their own type of collectives, so to speak. And they're encouraging their clients to go get the bigger bag. Go get paid now, because that person who's advising you, they're in it for a percentage. They're getting paid too. What happened to the whole, we're looking out for the players' best interest. We want to help them go to college so they can get developed, get some playing time. Remember when that was the whole purpose behind the grassroots football 7-on-7, AAU basketball, exposure? Look, Georgia might develop NFL players, and they do, quite a few. But they're not known for developing the quarterback position. I mean, I guess if you want to use Stetson Bennett as an example, 6 years, okay, he developed. He's on an NFL roster. You really think he's going to be playing anytime soon? Look, I guess that's just how the stuff works now, and I just have to accept it. Right now, USC has Miller Moss, who looks like apparently he's the scariest quarterback prospect out there in the country because nobody wants to come play at USC. Jake Jensen is his backup. And then you've got, as I mentioned, walk-on Roy Gage. Here's what USC is facing. If spring camp were to start tomorrow, next week, 2 weeks, USC doesn't have enough quarterbacks to run a practice. Lincoln Riley would literally have to put on a helmet so he could get involved with the position drills. I mean, how in the wide, wide world of college football does USC only have 2 scholarship quarterbacks on their roster? And why hasn't Caleb Williams made his intentions official yet? Sorry, I'm on a little bit of a tangent rant here. Got to get that out. Seriously, Caleb, in honor of Jim Harbaugh, what's your deal, dude? Congratulations, Michigan Wolverines. You are the national champion. You beat the Washington Huskies 34-13. But I'm not sure how to recruit or deal with the quarterback position anymore. Honestly, I'm kind of at a loss right now. I mean, let's talk about the transfer portal quarterbacks. I mean, how much does a backup think they deserve? And if you're leaving UNLV for more exposure and better competition, shouldn't part of the equation be wanting to play also, looking for that path to getting on the field? I mean, Malachi Nelson, he's taken his name, image, and likeness in G-Wagon, NIL packages, and his ball. He's heading off to Boise State because he didn't play as a freshman at USC. And it didn't look like he was going to play as a redshirt freshman or a true sophomore in 2024. So he had his bag, but he didn't have any patience. Now he plans to start. So he went to a place that he could play. I get that. I can respect that decision. I might not like it. I can respect it. He wants to play. Still not a fan of the way he's doing it, but I respect it. So if you're a head coach and you play a freshman and they play well, look what happens to UNLV. The quarterback packs his bags, takes off, goes somewhere else. If you don't play a freshman, they leave. Malachi Nelson. So what the hell are you supposed to do? You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. I mean, everybody wants those top-rated, top 5, top 10 recruiting classes. Well, guess what? That's a side effect. Because you're better off taking the lower-rated classes with players who want to be at USC and who are willing to stick around, get developed, and play in their 3rd or 4th year. That Michigan team that just won the national championship, they have 45, 50 seniors? That formula still works. So, I mean, again, what are coaching staff supposed to do right now? And to those of you who like to say, but, the money's too good to pass up, these players got to cash in now. Let me say this. I understand. I know that the NFL isn't a sure thing. So taking a quickie type of payday can really help out a lot, especially some of the money that these players are getting. It's life-changing. However, if you're taking the money to go be a backup because the NFL is not guaranteed, then aren't you kind of halfway admitting that you're not good enough for the NFL anyways? Where is your motivation to get off the bench and to compete for a starting job, to get better? I mean, if you're willing to pay to get paid and to sit on the bench, how is that being competitive? I really hope that these guys, people who are advising players on what to do, still have the player's best interest at heart, because there's quite a few of them out there who've never had a job on their own where it didn't involve making a buck off a teenager's name, image, and likeness. Oh, and by the way, all these parents out there, not all of them, that are relying on their kids, kind of a social security type of a social security check safety net. You need to stop. This is not the way to encourage your children to compete. It's a bad look. I know we come to sports to escape some of the crazy realities of real life, but can we talk just for a minute about preparing for real life? According to the FDA, pharmacies are running out of antibiotics like amoxicillin, and it's right in the middle of the worst flu season in over a decade. Can you imagine a more helpless feeling than if one of your kids got sick while a supply chain issue kept them from getting their life-saving medication that they needed? Thankfully, they'll be okay because of Jace Medical. The Jace case is a pack of 5 different antibiotics to treat a long list of bacterial illnesses, including UTIs, respiratory infections, sinusitis, and skin infections, among others. So visit jacemedical.com and complete your physician encounter. It will be reviewed by a board-certified physician, and your medications will be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy at a fraction of the regular cost. It's never been more important to be prepared than today. Go to jacemedical.com and use code LOCKEDON to get $20 off your order. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week streaming channel. So where does Lincoln Riley and USC go from here? Okay. The transfer portal is closed. It'll be open again where players can enter their name for processing. That starts April 16th, and that will stay open until the end of April. April 30th, it closes. Spring camp, USC, they haven't released those dates yet. But as I mentioned in the first segment, you cannot run a spring practice with just 2 scholarship quarterbacks and a walk-on. And I'm coming at it strictly from health reasons alone. Quarterbacks already wear the yellow no-contact jersey. That's a given. But at a certain point, their arm is going to get tired. You think about all the warm-up throws. Not a big deal. But then you've got all the drills. You've got the different route trees. You know, you're continuously throwing repetition after repetition. And then you have the real game time simulations. Again, just more repetition after repetition. I think eventually you're going to have to start putting Noah Moss and Jake Jensen and Roy Gage on a pitch count. So, since Jaden Mayava is off the market, I apologize. Apparently, I said Jordan a couple times on the Locked On USC episode yesterday. Unintentional. I apologize. I said it right the first time when I talked about him last week. Nevertheless, mea culpa. Won't happen again. Since Jaden Mayava is now off the market, he's committed to Georgia. Where does Lincoln Riley and USC turn to? They need at least one more quarterback before spring camp. So what did I do? I started to look. I went to the transfer portal list. Said, who's out there? Who's available? Who are some realistic possibilities? Now, I got some names for you. How about Chandler Morris, the former TCU quarterback? He's a redshirt sophomore. Oh, name sounds familiar. You're right. Well, he was committed to Oklahoma back in 2020. So Lincoln Riley is obviously familiar with him. Morris was named the starting quarterback during the 2023 season for TCU. He finished with 1,500 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions in 7 games. But he missed 5 games with an injured knee. And that sidelined him, which also sidelined him for most of the 2022 season after he had actually won the starting quarterback job over the eventual Heisman runner-up, Max Duggan. So the young man obviously has some skill playing quarterback. Again, redshirt sophomore, he compiled 2,400 yards along with 16 touchdowns and 5 interceptions in his 3 seasons as a Horned Frog. And he also completed 65.6% of his passes. Now, depending on how well his knee recovers, he can also run the ball. 400 yards, 6 scores using his legs. So, I don't know. Again, he's out there. He's not committed anywhere. Obviously, Lincoln Riley is familiar with him since he recruited him when he was at Oklahoma. How about this? In a weird twist of fate, how about the pig farmer, Bryson Barnes? Yeah, well, he's actually in the transfer portal. That's the same dude. Yeah, he lit up USC. You were there. I was there. I watched it. So how about a Green Acres vibe, but in reverse? You bring the pig farmer to the big city. Why not? We know he can use his legs. And he's capable of throwing the ball as well. He might be the perfect person for Lincoln Riley to kind of refine whatever skills Bryson Barnes has. He likes to compete. He's not afraid of competition. I don't know. Seems like a good. That might be someone to look at. He's tough as nails. How about the well-traveled? He's also a redshirt sophomore, Jake Garcia. You remember that name? He's like the original Dylan Raiola. He transferred to a bunch of different high schools, committed to Miami, and then he transferred. Right now, he's leaving University of Missouri. He's in the transfer portal. Look, if you need a career backup and a scout team type of quarterback, go get him. Here's the thing. You have limited scholarships available. That's the other part of this problem, this equation problem, is you want to give a scholarship to a player or 2 players who are going to benefit the team. So you just don't want to bring a quarterback in just for the sake of bringing in a quarterback, unless you're committed to you're my scout team quarterback until you've proven you're not my scout team quarterback. What about Jaden DeLaura? Yep, former Washington State and now Arizona State Wildcat quarterback. I don't know if USC wants to go there. Some baggage. If you're not familiar with it, you can look it up online. He's had some history. Yeah, first at Washington State, had some when he was still in high school. I don't know if USC wants to go there, is all I'm going to say. Talented young man. Drew Pine, quarterback. He's back on the market. Went from Notre Dame, went to Arizona State. He's not going to play at Arizona State anymore. Raise your hand if you remember the name Micah Bowens. It's been a few years. He played high school quarterback. He played his high school quarterback at Bishop Gorman in Las Vegas. He's in the transfer portal. He's leaving Charlotte. Again, just throwing names out there, see what sticks. Basically, what I'm saying, the pickings are really slim right now. There's a lot of bigger names that were in the transfer portal, but that talent, they've already committed. Look, I think it looks like Lincoln Riley is going to have to find at least one quarterback now who can enroll early, so they can be in classes. And I think the last day to do that is January 26th. Just so you have another quarterback available when you eventually open spring camp. And then after that, after the spring camps are over, you're going to have to kind of see what shakes out of the trees, see what else is out there. Because right now, it's hard to believe, but probably he's got to find a plan C or a plan D quarterback. I mean, first, Will Howard was scared away, which I'm fine with just because of the whole dynamics. Again, he was a starter who was looking to come in to compete for the starting job. And I don't know if he wanted to play that tug of war in the USC locker room right now with Miller, with Camp Miller Moss. So again, because of the dynamics, I'm fine with Ohio State probably overpaying. You had Jaden Mayava. He was plan B. So who is going to be who's going to be the backup now? He's obviously more comfortable taking a bag of money and competing to be the backup to the backup. Third string, fourth string. He's comfortable with that role. Maybe he's not the right type of player to be at USC if that's how he's looking at things. So again, it's interesting. Where does Lincoln Riley go from here? I threw out some names. Last week on Locked on USC. But as you can see, there's not a lot out there. And I think if you're looking for using finger quotes, a big name talent, it's probably not going to happen until after the spring, when somebody else is unhappy with the depth chart that's in front of them. So we'll see what happens. Right now, that quarterback room, it has some room. The NFL season is wrapping up. There's still time for you to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers, you're going to get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. They have an app that is really easy to use, and they got a variety of ways you can bet, like same game parlays. You want to make a parlay in their parlay hub? Go check that out. They've got this Explore tab that shows you different ways that you can bet. They got a variety of things you can do to make some money. So visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn and make your first bet an easy score. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. When USC fans hear 4th and 9, they immediately, they should, flash back to South Bend, Indiana, and Matt Leinart hitting a streaking Dwayne Jarrett down the sideline for a first down. And that play eventually set up the Bush push and a win for the ages for USC. When I think of 4th and 7, I'm going to think of the Washington Huskies trailing the Michigan Wolverines 17-3 in the first half of the college football playoff championship game. And then at the same time, I'm going to think of Michael Penix Jr. missing a wide open Rome Odunze. And it wouldn't just been for a first down. It would have been a touchdown. And that touchdown would have changed the playoff game complexion completely. Washington eventually got that touchdown, making the score 17-10. They literally could have gone into halftime tied up at 17. So, congratulations to the Michigan Wolverines. You are the 2023 national champion. They beat the Huskies 34-13. But again, the game was much closer than the scoreboard. I'm bringing this up here at the end of the show because USC is going to be playing both Michigan and Washington this upcoming season. Now, although at first it kind of felt like Michigan could have used their Penn State game plan and just run the ball, Washington, I don't know what happened early in the game. It kind of looked like maybe they brought Alex Grinch in for a consulting job, because there were some huge USC-sized gaps on Washington's defense that the Wolverine running back, Donovan Warren, he was running through. His first two runs went for like 46 and 45 yards. It's crazy. So you have to give credit to Michigan. They played a great game, and they ended up making fewer mistakes than Washington. And their defense also, they didn't succumb to Washington's passing attack. And I got to be honest with you, I think Michael Penix probably chose the wrong game to be off with his throws. His accuracy was off. And you give a little bit of credit to Michigan's defense for getting, applying some pressure to him. That really wasn't the case here, because it seemed like every time Michael Penix missed his wide receivers, he missed them high. He was overthrowing guys. So that was one play of the game that really stood out, that overthrow to Nunze. The other play was the first play or the second play of the second half. Washington had the ball to start, and that's why that missed opportunity in the first half, I think, I don't know if it came back to bite him, but I think it changed the complexion of the game. So they're trailing 17-10 at halftime. They have the ball coming out of half. Again, it was first or second play of the second half. He's under a little bit of duress. He threw the ball up there, and I think his hand got tipped, or maybe the ball got tipped. But Michigan came away with the interception. And that wasn't the play that sealed the game, but it gave Michigan the ball essentially to start the second half. Washington's defense, I'm going to say, nutted up, and they were able to hold Michigan to a field goal because they had great field position. So at that point, it's 20-10. It was his second interception in the second half. Again, on a high throw, this one over the middle, that sealed the game. It wasn't returned for a pick six, but it got them down there close to scoring position. It was in the red zone. They put it in there. Again, final score 34-13. Michael Penix, this is how bad I won't say how bad, but this is how off he was. He was 13 for 21, 128 yards and one touchdown in the first half. He had that in the first quarter against USC. At the end of the third quarter, just to show you this was a good game, Michigan led 20-13. So they traded field goals in that third quarter. It was a really good, tight game. But then, again, I think Washington, without their running game, Dylan Johnson, he wasn't 100%. And I think he re-injured whatever was injured the first time he touched the ball in the game. Without that running game, Washington's offense, they wore down. That's where Michigan still had the advantage. It was in the trenches. And when Michigan went jumbo on both sides of the ball, specifically with their offensive line, I think that just wore Washington down by the end of the game. So I bring this up again because USC plays both Michigan and Washington, but USC's first road game of the year will be in Ann Arbor. Yeah. USC opens the season against LSU in Las Vegas. And then they come home. They'll play Utah State. Then they'll have a bye week. And then they travel to the home of the current national champion. So, will Jim Harbaugh still be their head coach? A lot of people speculating he's heading in the NFL. Again, he dealt with a lot of stuff at Michigan this year with the whole, cheating, stealing signals. I think he might be done with college football as well. Not to mention, I talked about it earlier in the show, Michigan loses, 45 plus seniors on that roster? That's a lot. They're going to be a different team next year. J.J. McCarthy, he's gone. So shouldn't USC be worried about heading up to Ann Arbor? If USC can continue to fill their needs, especially the defensive line, find a quarterback or two, I think everything will be okay by the time USC heads up to Ann Arbor, the big house. Will you be there? That's on my bucket list. I plan to be there. I also plan to be here tomorrow for another episode of Locked on USC because we're at the end of another one. So, when you're done making this episode of Locked on USC your first listen, head on over to weareusc.com. Got a lot of content for you over there to read. We've got the Inside the Trojan Huddle weekly episode that you're going to want to watch. So until then, everyone, you know what to do.